Most people were surprised when they found the education the lovely Ashton girls had acquired. Melanie had majored in journalism while Heather had majored in languages. They came easily to her, and besides French, her curriculum had been filled with German, Spanish, and Russian, all of which she spoke and read fluently. She was now studying Arabic in her spare time while working in an import and export firm. Heather thought of her sister with affection. They were very close, less than a year apart. While she had taken her looks from her mother, Melanie had their father's light brown hair and almond-shaped eyes. They were lustrous, with the soft, trusting brown of a doe. Her face was long and angular, her body repeating the general lanky bone structure. She did not have the soft roundness of her sister, but one of a lean athlete, which was surprising because she spent long hours dreaming over her typewriter, living in a vivid world of her own creation. Both luckily had inherited their father's academic mind. She had taught English in the university until his untimely death 5 years ago. In Melanie it had surfaced as a writing career, in Heather as a hunger for languages. Their adorable but frivolous mother had given them loving affection. James, their father's stern older brother, now managed their affairs, barely hiding his exasperation over his flighty sister-in-law and grimly hoping the daughters would get off his hands and marry soon. He seldom bothered them except for that one awful time, and Heather bit her lip. Her face still burned at the memory. The girls were grateful to him, knowing he detested this job thrust upon him, yet managed the modest amount their father left in his very capable hands, so they had very little hardship, except for those occasional splurges of their mother's which tried his soul. He was a vice president in charge of a branch bank, and respect for the dollar was deeply imprinted in him. She was surprised to see him in the living room when she came down. Surely only some earth-shaking event would bring him here on a weekend. Her mother had no doubt done it again, and she sighed as she looked at her crushed figure sitting in the chair while he strode restlessly across the floor. "Uncle James, how nice to see you," she said, casting an apprehensive glance at her mother. "May I get you some coffee?" "I already put the pot on. Will you see if it's ready, dear?" her mother asked. Her mother was the only one in the family who called him Jim. The children had always found him too austere a person to be that familiar. "Perhaps now that you are here, dear Heather, you can tell Jim that I'm not being mercenary when I ask for more money. Inflation eats every spare cent I get." "That's why I'm here," he put in dryly. "That same inflation has eaten into your income. It just doesn't stretch forever, Marcia. Luckily, it hasn't the strain of your daughter's education anymore. Heather has a decent job, and Melanie seems to be making a go for her chosen career." Heather smiled at her mother. She was made to be corseted in the full old-fashioned meaning of the word. She was made for a man to love and comfort. These years without her husband must have been difficult on her. She wondered why she never realized it before, and why her mother had never remarried. There had been gentlemen callers, as she had daintily called them, but nothing ever came of their visits. She looked obliquely at her uncle. It was an unguarded moment, and she was startled to see the softening of his expression as he watched the dainty feminine movements of her mother as she poured the coffee Heather brought in. Was it possible that Uncle James was in love with her mother? She glanced at him again. He looked his usual unbending self, and she smiled over her fanciful flight of imagination. Melanie joined them, and he asked her politely how her latest book was doing. She answered in the same polite tone, and Heather had to giggle, recognizing her own stilted responses to his inquiries. She heard Harry's car in the drive and went to the window, idly wondering what his cousin looked like. She saw the dark head in contrast to Harry's blonde hair, and thought at least Melanie was half right. He was a dark Frenchman.